Coming up next, we've got a panel about crowdfunding. So, despite there being so many game funding options out there, we still see that a lot of developers who have been marginalized go back to crowdfunding over and over again. In this talk, three different game devs who have used the crowdfunding option are going to break down their entire experience, why they chose that option, what it was like to get it funded, and then what happened after it was funded. So, without further ado, welcome our panelists.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our talk, Crowdfunding Real Talk. Yeah, it's gonna get real in here today, and we're gonna talk about everything you need to know about crowdfunding your project when you're not a super famous person, specifically when you're like a BIPOC person. That's person twice, but we're gonna do it, and just what to expect before, during your campaign, and after, because we don't really talk about what happens if you get funded. We talk a lot about what happens if you don't get funded. So we want to also prepare you for success. Let's start by introducing everybody. So Danny, if you would go first.
Hi everyone, my name is Dana Launders. I am the lead producer of Validate Shelby and Singles in Your Area.
Always following up after you is just, it's really cute. And so I'm like, I hope I have that charm. I'm Sanem. I'm the studio director and co-founder of Perfect Garbage.
And I'm Alex Abukadam. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the creative director and one of the co-founders at Soft Not Weak Studio, which is a cooperative. We're currently working on Spirit Swap, Lo-Fi Beats, Smash 3-2. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the three projects that we kickstarted. Because obviously, who are we to tell you anything? Well, we've been through trial by fire. We've successfully just kickstarted these three games that you see on the screen: Validate, Spirit Swap, and Love Shore. And we're going to tell you about our process, why we picked crowdfunding, and just kind of have like a thematic conversation. So, Son, why don't you kick us off on crowdfunding in general?
Yeah, so I'm really excited always to talk about crowdfunding because it is a tool that's been given to us as kind of like maybe indie developers who are starting our own studio. Like Alex said, not people who have a lot of history in the industry, therefore a lot of recognition just from our name or previous success. And crowdfunding has allowed us to basically market to an audience that we can kind of build ourselves, who like what we do, and they can therefore support us building those projects. But again, like we've kind of already hinted at, it comes with its own costs. Crowdfunding is not just a one and done deal that you just have to do it once and it's over and now you have an amazing game. You don't have to worry about it ever again. There are stages that we all go through towards success. So it's always important to understand the good, the bad, and the ugly when you're crowdfunding.
Okay, so Sunny, I guess Danny, you'll be the good, Sunny, you'll be the bad, and I'll be the ugly.
I love being bad.
Of course, I love being good.
I knew exactly what I was doing when I named this talk. So let's have first like a quick breakdown of what we're going to talk about, because we're going to keep it short and sweet. We're going to give you points that you can come back to, and I'm pretty sure the slides will be available after this. We'll make sure they are. So we're going to talk about 5 main things, and then we're going to draw our conclusions based on our own experiences. We're going to talk about scoping, how to scope your game, and how much to ask for, how to kind of estimate how much you need in today's like market for an indie game. We're going to talk about the importance of demos. Do you need one? How to manage it? We're going to talk about marketing, aka how do people find your crowdfunding game? How to get people excited so that they part with their hard-earned cash. Merch, do it, don't do it. If you're going to do it, what can you do to mitigate? Like, I feel like I'm already telling everyone what to expect with this one, but let's just talk about merch. And then 5 is going to be kind of like our bonus round where we have like our own things that we absolutely want to share about our projects, where we talk about that. So let's go ahead and talk about the positive side of Kickstarter, which is games get funded. Granted, a lot of them recently are more tabletop games, and granted, Kickstarter is not the only platform, and it has a lot of problems, especially more recently with tying its name to blockchain technology, and then kind of walking it back. So there are problems, and this advice or like this talk will go for any platform you might want to use. We just happen to use Kickstarter, and Kickstarter does still have the best visibility of all of them for video games right now.
Yeah, something really exciting about this stat is that it's the highest amount of kickstarted successful games since games have been on Kickstarter. So in 2021, the most games in Kickstarter's history in a year period of time has been funded. So it's an exciting time for crowdfunding video games.
Damn. And which year did you did y'all fund?
We did
I funded in
2019.
2020. Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow,
babies,
2021.
2019. Wow, we're all the
3
years.
years in a row.
Wow.
Never stop. See you in 2022, 2023.
Well, good luck on that, because I will not be doing
Yeah.
that. But
Maybe you should be doing the bad.
So let's talk about scope then, because obviously there's a journey for you to get to that campaign. It doesn't start at the campaign, obviously. So Danny, why don't you tell us how to scope your game, how you scoped your game, and how you decided on the budget, how much you were going to ask for, and be really candid and tell us the good, the bad, the ugly, like in that experience of scoping versus what came to be.
of course. So the good part is that we got funded. And we got a lot of fans from our Kickstarter. We have so many supporters, like day one supporters from our Kickstarter who we still see today. Our Kickstarter really put us on the map of a game that really has not been created before. The bad, a lot. We definitely underfunded ourselves because we just thought that $16,000 was going to be enough for our team of like 20. I don't know why we thought that would be enough, but like I said, this is a first title. So at the time, like we just underestimated ourselves severely because we didn't know people would actually support our game. And then we end up like making like 3 times the amount. So people love our game and they love supporting us. But at the end of the day, the ugly is that money was just not enough. And we hit a wall in development because of it. But Validate is out by the time you watch this. So we obviously figured it out.
Sunny, what's your experience?
Yeah, I'm actually quite similar to Danny. Even though we had a higher number goal, it was my first kind of massive Kickstarter project, especially in the game dev space. And we asked around for 50K. We got 62K with Kickstarter, 58 with tax, like a little bit more with tax because they cut you at the knees quite a bit. So the good news is that we got funded. We did build our core audience just like Danny. It made us have a kind of community that we had. The bad is that we actually went with the intention of building a better demo with that Kickstarter and then pitching it. So we scoped with the potential of getting a publisher following us post Kickstarter, which we could talk endlessly about publishing, but that's not what this talk is about. Didn't go the way that we really wanted it to go when we first started, which leads to the ugly. How do we finagle resources in order to get the game out to the quality that we wanted to without killing ourselves? And for us, that resulted in a 4-year development time as opposed to a faster turnaround time that we originally hoped when we kickstarted.
Yeah.
What about you, Alex? What about Spirit Swap?
Spirit Swap, I don't know if this is the case for you, but all of us on the team, on the core team, had prior experience. Well, almost all of us had prior experience with games, so we'd been caught before in development hell. The good is that we bumped our initial goal all the way up. We asked for 75K, and if I remember correctly, we funded in like a day, like about 30 hours or so, which was unreal. The bad is we weren't prepared for that amount of success. So we might have messed up a little bit with the stretch goals. And also we had, this is something that I feel like we should probably talk about a little bit when it comes to scoping and budgeting and how much you should ask. You should consider you're going to pay taxes, or if you're not going to pay taxes, you're going to have to spend all of that money on expenses, business expenses within the fiscal year, or if you were already LLC'd, what they call a fiscal year or calendar year. If you're not LLC'd and you don't have like a fiscal year that's different from the calendar year,
I
and
just want
you're
to
gonna
quickly add, this is
go ahead.
US system, by the way. We're all
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
all in the
stationed
US.
in the USA. So
Mhm.
If you have better taxes, I'm very happy for you.
I'm jealous.
And I'm jealous.
Yeah,
Canada, I'm talking to you.
Be jealous as hell.
They have grants up there. Anyways, let's not make ourselves sad with this. So the bad was like we weren't ready for success, so we kind of fumbled on when it came to stretch goals because we weren't really prepared for stretch goals as much. So we have, for example, if I'm going to be very candid, VO we have no experience with, and that's been like our biggest pain point. Trying to estimate that one and get it out has been one of the big things that's bogged us down. So I would say grossly overestimate how much you need. If you're really absolutely certain, let's say like in Validate's case, that you need 16,000 to make the game, I would honestly say in my experience, ask for 45,000 minimum. I don't think any game out there of any scope, unless it's like, no, even if it's solo dev, I don't think any game out there, if you plan to release with any amount of like quality control and like compete with other indies in the space, you cannot make even a demo for less than 40K. I would say 50K is the about minimum. 75K was the minimum that we were comfortable asking for. And the ugly is we didn't end up paying ourselves, and that was never in the budget. The truth of it for like Spirit Swap is that none of the money went to the 5 people who are in Spirit Swap. It all went to compensating ethically our contractors, because we felt that because they didn't have ownership of the project, they should at least be compensated competitively for their work. The ugly, and I wrote that down, is that no matter how well you scope creep will creep. That's what it does. So no matter how well you scope and how much you buff up, I would say always add on top of it a 20% buff. And I know this is like, well, you're inflating that initial goal a lot. So how can we get to it? How can we get to that amount of people being excited about the game? There is a way to do it, and so much of it is luck, but we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about how to get people excited with our topic number 2, which is demos. So, Sunny, do you need to have a demo to kickstart a game?
10 years ago, you didn't. Now you 100% need a demo. Kickstarter or all crowdfunding platforms, I really think, except one, but I'm going to ignore it, really support or rely on the fact that you have a demo. And I'm sure we could spend a whole talk discussing it. There's just been a very long history with crowdfunding and non-deliverables that has led to this kind of, not, I wouldn't say inherent mistrust, because I think it's healed a lot, but uncertainty for game, specifically video game Kickstarters that make kind of bigger promises with new teams. So yes, you need a demo. The great thing about needing a demo is that it forces you to test if you can actually make the product that you want to make. So a goal for a good demo, in my opinion, is a demo that carries a good amount of the features that you're hoping to have, even if it's in the most gray box iterative stage, to show that, yes, there's a way for us to kind of finagle what we want this game to look like. And I think audiences are really, really receptive to that. Those demos hype me up.
I agree. I think that having a demo for Validate definitely made people more confident in our game. I think that's really like why people want demos. They want to be able to see that you are capable of putting something out, because, you know, we're not going to get into Kickstarter scams, but that does happen. People literally do run off with money, but a demo is like a reassuring your fans or like anyone, your supporters, that a game will come out. It probably won't be in the same style, but it will come out and you are capable of doing so. Also, demos really give people an understanding of the game that you're trying to put out. I think that having a demo when you're kickstarting and when you're like about to either look for a publisher or you're about to search for more investors, having a demo is a very good proof of concept.
That is true. I'm gonna get into the ugly a little bit, and I want you to please jump in at any point.
Mhm.
I want to talk about the ugly side of the current climate of crowdfunding for games and demos specifically, is that it forces you to lock down and finalize an art aesthetic super early. So we all know how long games take to make, and the problem is the bar has been raised so high with crowdfunding right now, and I really wish we could bring that back where like you could just kickstart an idea, but now you have to have a huge number of assets. So what we tried to do for Spirit Swap in order to cut that down was to maximize on a very small number of asset. Our demo we released, which is still the same demo we have now because we don't want to touch it while we're still developing the game, was the endless mode demo. And it is one song on loop, endless to show off the mechanics, one animation, like no, two animations for like main character and their pet, and backgrounds, and that's it. It's very basic, but it looks professional, and that's front loading a lot of work, and that's having a lot of confidence in your art direction, uh, and a lot of commitment early on. So can you tell me, like, let's get into the ugly for you, Danny. How has the game changed from the demo, and how did you manage these expectations?
Yeah, of course. So one of the bad about our demo is our demo is extremely long. Our demo was about almost 4 hours of playtime, which is like insane for a demo. Demo should not even be longer than an hour most of the time because it's a demo. It's a little bit of your game. Well, our full game is like also pretty long. We're looking at 30 to 40 hours, but it's still like you want people to get a little grasp, because if your demo is too long, people will feel like they played the entire game, which is why later on, we actually did a new demo in April of this year, April of 2022. And we made sure it is no more than 2 hours. For most people, it played around an hour to an hour and a half. And it's like, and we also did not put the full routes. Like for visual novels, we go by routes. So like you put like full routes, half routes, whatever. I know for other games, it's a little bit different because like how mechanics work in your game, but make sure that if you are putting a demo out, you are putting like the bare minimum, but also passable in your demo. A lot of the times people will want to show off every single thing in their demo, but like you don't have to do that. Show like two mechanics, some story, a little bit of lore, maybe a little bit of cute girls, and call it a day.
Son, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the cost of making a demo. So
Oh yeah.
I know that
Mhm.
Danny and Alice kind of shared for Love Shore, I'm a aesthetic perfectionist. So the art is very intense in Love Shore, and we work really hard to do that. And I'm very lucky to work with such amazing people that helped it. But I did use $11,000 of my own savings for 5 months to make that demo possible for that Kickstarter. I am lucky that I was working a lot to be able to do that and pay. And I'm sure 100% that the folks who were working with me, who are my friends at the time, still are my friends. That sounded so ominous. They're no longer my friends. There are still my
I took
friends
the
who are-
money and ran.
I ran so far away. But I'm sure they undervalued themselves a little bit too, to like make sure that that demo goes down. I don't think that and that kind of sticks with me a lot, is that in 2018 we really built that demo all new with, I think, still beautiful assets. All of our assets have been updated since, but I think that the first demo of Love Shore is gorgeous, and it costs
Gorgeous,
an arm
yeah.
and a leg to do. And I don't think a lot of people are afforded that opportunity or even have that opportunity. I took a big risk with 2 credit cards, man. I'm still like haunted by that, but it costs that kind of gamble that you play. And we're, like Alex saying, we're at this state now with the expectation of a demo where the art aesthetic is narrowed in. All of that Love Shore switching day and night, asset doubling had to be narrowed in right away so that it would grab people. The cost of building that, all of that is not accessible as I think sometimes folks like to pretend it is. It takes a long time to build that network, and it takes a long time to build any financial stability. If you're paying the folks working with you, who are maybe like contractors, maybe not like the core team, because we all debate on how we take that risk together. But if you're wanting, like Alex pays their contractors ethically, that requires a lot of financial burden to front as a team. And I think that it always should be brought up when we're talking about having deliverables like a demo for a Kickstarter, in which sometimes you're raising money to even start the game.
Yep. Danny?
Yeah. Unlike
Yeah.
y'all, we were not getting paid.
Wait, one second. We were not getting paid
First of
either.
all, I was doing the paying, so don't even.
Yeah, we were
we
doing
didn't
it.
have
Don't
any
look at me.
money involved, is what I should say. No money. Nothing. We were all doing it for free, like y'all. But like we didn't even like pay like anyone, because before Validate blew up, we were just friends making the game, which is a choice. I love them very dearly, but it very much is a choice to just go that approach, because you know sometimes things, just like we said, things get ugly. And not saying things got ugly for us. I'm still friends with everyone I worked on Validate with, but it's just like some people, things happen. But for us, we just kind of just did our game. We worked on Validate because we got very lucky and unlucky. We started development when the pandemic first started. So everyone was at home and we just all had time to work, because, you know, this was when
You're spending time. So even if you're not
yes,
spending money, you're spending time
your
when you're
time,
working for
yes.
free, on top of like
Mhm.
working full-time jobs, which I do believe all of us did at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much all of us were working full-time jobs or like part-time
Yeah.
jobs.
Unless you have inherited money, you better find a way to get
Mhm.
some
Yeah.
if you want to.
I mean, it's the same thing for me, where I also I wiped my savings, to be very honest,
Mhm.
in the year preparing for the crowdfunding campaign. Like we literally prepared for a year, and I wiped out my savings. Other members of SoftNut Week put in money. Those who couldn't put money put in free work. Again, it's all about, it's,
I do
you
want to
gotta
add
make
something,
it
though.
look. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it looked like you spent a year. It was a really nice Kickstarter. It
Like
takes
beautiful
time to build.
Kickstarter.
It looks like you
I
did
was
it.
so
Like,
tired. I
Yeah.
was so tired. But to go back to what you were saying, Danny, you keep saying that Validate blew up. And one thing about Validate that is absolutely amazing is your marketing acumen. I cannot, you are so good at that. So tell us about marketing discoverability. You have that campaign, let's say you have that demo, everything is ready. How do you tell people about your ding dang crowdfunding campaign? How do you get people to look at it so that a percentage can actually back it and fund you?
Ooh, so one thing about me, I'm the marketing queen. I'm really good at Twitter and just marketing in general. I've always been the marketing person for Validate. I very much have had a platform before Validate. I had about like 5,000 followers, and then like having so many people on the team who also had like semi big platforms and like fandom platforms. We had like a lot of supporters at first, but from growing it from where we first started, like we got 2,000 followers in our first month after we announced our game, to when our Kickstarter ended where we had about 6,000 to 7,000 followers. It was just honestly, I wanted people to know our characters. So I wanted people to really like play our demo and like just understand. So we did a lot of contests. We did a lot of meme contests where you could just create your memes from the demo. We did a lot of just like fan engagement. We also posted memes ourselves. If you look up #Valley meme, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Just edits of Facebook posts, Twitter posts, edits of like popular memes, like redraws, all that stuff, just art and like media, so people can know who your characters are. I think the most important thing with marketing and like to be successful in marketing, especially with games that are very character based, is that people need to know who your characters are, because without your characters, what are you doing? You're just a game. You're just a game that like isn't very notable. Like you have to have very notable characters that people love and adore. And I got very lucky because like I have some characters who are just they're a mess, but you know, it's called struggling singles for a reason.
Hell yeah. So you're saying you already had an established platform, or like you had an established following, and then you grew that. I don't want you to sell yourself short, however. I really think that for Validate itself, you really like you blew up that platform, and a lot of the content creation you did, and that's the flip side of it, which is the bad, which is you're not only doing lead producing, you're also the community manager, and you're a content creator. You and your team are constantly creating content and staying on top of trends, and fully going into that zeitgeist. To be honest with you, I also have my platform, so obviously, I guess what we're trying to say is cultivating your platform as a creator really helps, but it's not the only thing that helps. When we were doing Spirit Swap, we hired actually Sun and Emmett to consult, because even though I'm pretty sure like in 2019 was it, you had a fairly smaller base, you still kickstarted.
I was gonna joke, yeah, that I wasn't like who I almost was like who I am now. In 20, I had no comic history, so I wasn't published. Like I had no following. I think the only following I had less than 2K on Twitter, was because I wrote fan fiction. I'm not gonna tell you for
Hell
what.
yeah.
But I was there, and so yeah, it was Love Shore that kind of pioneered me getting really into social media.
So tell us your tips and tricks. How'd you do it? Because I paid for that advice, but
so
you can give it for free if you want.
I am not a memer like Danny. I always joke that I'm like, I look at the validated account and I'm like, good for you, can't be me. Like I just can't make jokes. I can't Photoshop. No,
can't Photoshop either.
I'm on MS Paint, like cooking and dragon. But the way that we kind of tackled how we wanted to do social media is that the one thing I love doing is networking. So I am a back-end person. I am all like production management, taxes, and networking, and quiet pipelines rather than forward pipelines. And I found that has just, like similar to Danny, worked out really well for me. I got to know you. You met me actually through Animal Heads, ironically enough, Alex. So it wasn't even games, but kind of knew each other. And like it's these little things that I was able to start building that community, even during the Love Shore Kickstarter, and after that has helped us grow. Like I really think a lot of Love Shore's growth happened after the Kickstarter. Like we did have a boom, and I'm actually think this is quite similar to Validate, because you've continued to grow since, and so is Spirit Swap. It's just that how you foster those communities after you've kickstarted and like continued that growth is usually where you get like a little boom at the end. Oh, I'm hoping so. We're launching too, so we'll find out. But yeah, terrible at memeing. But wait, one more thing I want to add is if you're consistent, if you're consistently posting, algorithms, all apps, they love it. They eat it up. It's religious to them. If you just post 3 times a day at peak hours, Google them in your location with a hashtag, and you don't tag anyone, you don't put links in the first tweet because that messes up the algorithm, you too eventually grow an audience. That's
you have to learn the algorithm dances for each platform, and it is exhausting.
I posted on the Validate account every day since February 2020.
Can't believe you do
every
this.
single day.
I look at you and I'm like, wow, a star. Anyway,
here's
I don't know 1 week post.
But I'm also very lazy with marketing. Like there'll be times where I don't feel like doing anything, and I'm just like, all right, give me a character and an emotion and I'll show you the sprite. That literally just takes downloading a sprite from the Google Drive and posting it. Like
that's
it's easy.
Work though. That's being funny. Being funny is hard. I'm sorry you're funny, but for us peasants, being funny on the fly is really hard. I'm dressed like a clown and I'm still not funny. Like
I've always had trouble being funny because of the tone of our game as well. It's not a funny game. I'm always like,
it's a hard game.
I forgot.
Honestly, if you have funny or if you have thirsty, those are
I know,
like
we
the
go
two
for the
big
thirst.
ones.
I know.
Yeah, you go for the thirst. She goes for the funny. We
thirst.
We try to do both.
I don't go for the thirst. We don't be horny.
You're gonna tell me that mom that you post.
Okay, that does.
Look me in the eye. Look me in the eye.
All right.
Anyways,
my bad.
For a team, so basically, let's be very honest. I'm really glad, Son, that you brought up that you don't have to have a following, but it does help. It really does help. And as marginalized people, it's really hard for us. Like the ugly truth is it's harder for us to put ourselves out there because world bad, well, online world sometimes bad. So I really advocate that back end also community building that Sun is talking about. And finding people like you. And Sun has like said that like one quote that has changed my entire life, which is like, you know, come up with the people that are at your level as opposed to keep chasing the people that are your idols, pretty much. I don't know what your quote was, but it's so good. Like the principle is stuck in my head.
Well, it's because here I am chatting with all of you, and I think we all like had very similar backgrounds, and I value our relationship as being one of the reasons that I think I have success, and so I think it's important to know
Same
your peers.
here, honestly. Yeah, your peers are super important, and I will say when it's time to crowdfund, call in every favor you have. This is like the ugly truth. If you have a favor, if you once picked up a pen for someone with more than 1,000 followers on Twitter or TikTok or wherever, you are going to DM them and call them bestie, and you're going to be very, very honest. You're going to butter them up, and you're going to ask them to really push your shit. You know, artists that are your friends that will do a quick doodle for you, do it. Plan for all of that. This is all important. Consistent posting, especially during your crowdfunding period. It's not you just, you just start it and then you leave it and then you come back on the 30th day. It's 30 days of like
marketing,
grind set.
Wake up and grind.
Honestly, it does feel like wake up and grind. It was honestly ridiculous. So
you sound like teary remembering it.
I was just so tired. I'm just so tired, but it's honestly also its own reward. So the marketing is going to be a lot of peer-to-peer stuff, and that takes time. If you're not a people person, I think you can honestly rely on your friends. You can rely on automatic posting, like, scheduling a bunch of tweets and then just, doing that once a week and then just leaving them. And remember, if you're having a hard time, that community manager is a full-time job. Content creation, that's a full-time job. People get paid yearly salaries to only do that. Marketing, that's a full-time job. So you're trying to manage all of that at the same time with your team and develop a game. So you're doing the developing and now you are also the marketing team. So cut yourself some slack. That's a really important part. The other really big problem is that if you don't happen to have, actually, Sunny, I think you wrote this, so I'm going to let you talk about the ugly.
Yeah.
How it dictates the pretense, please.
Yeah, so this is my nightmare. This is the thing that haunts me in my dreams, which is that the great thing about Kickstarters is that it's the ultimate marketing source. You'll actually hear of folks who talk about I say Kickstarters, but I mean crowdfunding in general, of course, is that there's two ways to use it. One to fund your prototype and one to promote your finished game. Those are the best, never in the middle, because you're asking for money that you're going to owe a lot of people a product for, and you might be in an ambiguous place. It's actually why even doing early funding, which we did, is also a risk, because you're kind of making a gamble saying, I'll see you guys in a few years. Please trust me. I will come back. But what I find so sinister about crowdfunding that is sometimes left away, and it's something we dealt with, is that if you want to take your product after crowdfunding, whether you're successful or not, and pitch it to a publisher, maybe to get the extra funds that you need, or you need help with porting and publishing and all of that. Publishers provide marketing sometimes. And if you want that assistance, all of that potential support that you could get, they will use your stats from social media and crowdfunding, especially if you've done it before, to make those risk decisions. This is great if you've exploded, but if you are even marginally beneath that explosion, so even if you're super successful, I think we're all really successful in kickstarting this. We've done multiple projects since that point. But if you aren't massive enough, the publisher will deem that as a strike against you, or the investor might deem that as a strike against you, as you've already sold your game to the max amount of people who would be willing to buy it. Which is why whenever we talk about how bigger our audience have gotten since kickstarting, I always get really excited, because it's the biggest incorrect attack on that
Assumption.
Kind of pretense.
Yep.
Yeah, but it does exist. If you're not super successful, these stats will follow you, and so you always have to be aware that maybe you're not going to get the deal that you want right out of crowdfunding, but there is potential to continue growing regardless of how that's treated to you by potential investors.
And I feel like sorry, Danny, go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing.
I was gonna talk
So
about
cute.
beat down cities example. And also if you don't succeed the first time, as Sun said, you're already building interest with that first campaign. You can always crowdfund again. There's literally no rule out there stopping you. And I would love, like, I think Sean Alexander Allen has a talk specifically about that, the postmortem for Beatdown City. And in that talk, which is also a gdocExpo talk, he specifically references the fact that the first time he kickstarted his game, he failed. And then he took basically the interest he generated from that, the contacts he generated from that, and then he tried again, and then he succeeded. So it's not a zero-sum game. And I know other people who've done that. I know several people, several creators who have not succeeded the first time, taken, like, regroup, taken the lessons, and then tried again. So marketing is a process, and you're going to be doing marketing from the moment you decide to crowdfund until after you release your game. So strap in. Don't give up. Speaking of giving up, let's talk about merch, because that's like a big one for crowdfunding. Everybody wants to do merch. What's cool about merch, Danny? Did you do merch?
Yeah, don't do merch. Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know why so many people think that they need to be doing merch for their crowdfunding. I understand that was a big thing at one point. Don't do it. We are in a pandemic. I started my Kickstarter in 2020. We still have not shipped out our merch. Like, the pandemic really rocked us in a way that's like so unpredictable. Merch is so unpredictable. One day it's cheap as hell. The next day it's the most expensive thing in the world. If you can avoid physical things until after your game is out, do it. I guess that was the ugly. My bad.
That's fine. Son, do you have anything good or bad?
Always
or
do
ugly?
flat merch. Always do flat merch. It's easy to ship. It's easy to send. You can all put it in one postage. If you make pins, you're just making a hassle for yourself. If you make any other merch that isn't flat, like flat, it's just an extra hassle. But something I like, and I like to talk about with Kickstarter, which is good too, is that when you're crowdfunding a product, you are funding the product. The merch that comes with it are bonuses that you are giving. I know technically the tiers imply, right? There's this implication, this subtle agreement we're making that I'm paying $100 and something because I actually want that shirt really badly. But legally, which sounds so ominous to say, me corporate, but legally. But legally and transactionally with how you're engaging with that crowdfunding, you are saying, I'm giving $100 to this project and I'll take a shirt as a thank you. So when you're designing merch or building merch, you should always keep in your mind that the ultimate product that people are coming for is the project that you're working, and you should never bend over backwards or overexert yourself to make fantastical or wild merch to justify really high tiers if it doesn't make sense. And I still think you can have those high tiers with more achievable merch regarded to those tiers as a thank you, because again, they're here for the game. They're supposed to be here for the game. That's like my big philosophy. Of course, you know, I also really want to make sweaters though. I think it would be really cute.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about the good part of merch because nobody wants to talk about it. It's so special to hold something with your characters or your game in your hands. Like, we made keychains, we made crop hoodies, we made magnets, and just holding them in my hands and having them around my house is like euphoric. Now, was it worth it? Asterisk. So for Spirit Swap, the difference is there's a big privilege here where I'm friends with someone who runs an ethical merch company and I trust her implicitly. I'm talking about the owner of Dual Wield Studio. And they've been doing merch for a long time. So I basically just went to them and I was like, tell me what we need to make merch happen. And I will put that in the budget of the Kickstarter. That was it. And then we went to town. That being said, I should have not tried to calculate shipping and handling by myself, because they give us a whole bunch of resources and we thought merch was going to cost something in April 2021. And wouldn't you know it, gas costs went up, which means shipping went up, which means all of those beautiful calculations plus 20% that I had done to add shipping into our campaign was wildly off base because I forgot that you're supposed to, apparently for the our particular fulfillment center, they add $1 for each item that you put in the box per item. And me trying to maximize the value, I was like, one box, put magnets, pins, stickers, print, and thingy in it. That's fine because it'll all ship at the same because the components aren't heavy. I'm smart. No, handling is expensive. So I would say if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't charge for shipping right away. The problem with not charging for shipping using, like, for example, Kickstarter, is that now you're locked into using services like BackerKit. And BackerKit takes a percentage. So if you're thinking about that, you need to factor that in how you're budgeting. The ugly truth is that I didn't do that because I thought I was gonna game the system. And we ended up, when we were finally ready to start shipping merch, which was a couple months ago, thousands of dollars off my estimate, which was already a generous estimate. The other ugly side of merch is that the world doesn't need more plastic, doesn't need more clothes. It's bad for the environment. It's a nightmare. So yeah, I would say keep it to digital. Like honestly, my advice, if I were to do it again, even though I love the merch, is what Danny said. No merch until after the game is out. Set up a shop and keep it to digital exclusives. Honestly, I attribute some of our like explosion success to the really beautiful merch that DWS and Hanako designed. But was it a wise decision? I honestly, the jury's still out on that. I enjoy having the experience and working with my friend, and it is a privilege. But if I were to do it myself, and I think we had like about 3,000 backers, and pack those things myself, like I think you did, son.
Emmett.
I would not. Yeah, Emmett did it. Oh my god. Yeah, I would be dead. I would have carpal tunnel again. So be very, very, very careful when it comes to merch. Yeah, the person with regrets is me. How much could shipping and handling cost? $5? No, a lot more, and it depends. And if you're doing international shipping, don't even talk about it. And you know what? Let's not.
Such a nightmare.
Brexit? Did you know Brexit affects? You know what? Let's not even talk about it. Yeah. So bonus round. I want everybody to tell me the good, bad, and ugly of their experiences, stuff that you want to tell people as like, you know, like it's your soapbox. Go ahead. Tell us about crowdfunding. Good, bad, ugly.
It sucks.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Crowdfunding it sucks. It is the most nerve-wracking 30, 40, however long you do it, time of your life. And you just kind of have to deal with it for 30 days straight. It's a lot of checking numbers. It's a lot of just wishing things will go well. It's scary. It's really scary, especially if you've never done it before. You're going to be scared. You might make some mistakes, but like you will learn from it. I don't say that to say that, like, I'm not saying crowdfunding sucks to scare you away from it. I'm saying it because you should be prepared for how much it's going to suck. It's not going to be gumdrops and lollipops. You're going to learn from it, though. You will be okay after you crowdfund.
So would you crowdfund again?
No.
All right. Well, thank you.
Absolutely
Great
not.
talk, son.
Love you, Kickstarter. Y'all are great people over there, but I'm not doing it again.
Danny and I are not the same. I crowdfunded like 2 more times since Love Short, but they weren't in games.
In games, it's like so much worse.
It's a different beast for games. I think the deliverable is much more higher stake in games than the other fields I worked in, which was mostly comics. With comics, it's usually 2, sometimes 3-person team with a printer, and it's really easy to I say easy because I've been on the hill. That's all. But it's definitely more efficient to execute than a game that requires 5+ people to be actively working and engaging with for a prolonged period of time at a level of efficiency that some would call a full-time job without the full-time pay. or benefits. So I think games are a bigger high risk, but I really do agree with Danny in that it's not something that should stop you. It should be something that makes you prepare properly for. If you dedicate the time to prepare for it, if you spend time learning the system that you want to work in, the engine that you want to work in, if you can make that pipeline as smooth as possible before you actually kickstart, you will have a full understanding. I say full in the softest quotes because you'll never know with game devs, but you'll have a really good understanding of what you need and the process that you need to do it with, and potentially the cost. I say potentially because Alex really hit home with the changing in the VAT system for the UK that like spiked up shipping,
Prices,
that like just
crazy.
consumed everything, and our current economy is crashing. We are going down. The US of A is sinking.
We're sinking,
so
y'all.
There's just
Inflation is crazy.
It is.
Like, it's like it will still be crazy by the time you see this, but just think about how bad things can get in the economy before you start thinking about physical merch. We are so serious about that.
Yeah, I do want to add though, my other thing is that if you are going to crowdfund, you really do need to make a video. Really recommend it. The level
have a trailer.
Any
Nobody's
sort of
reading all that. I'm sorry to tell you.
100%.
I have never read anything. People look at images. You want tons of images.
Yes.
And that video. Keep it under 1 minute.
Make it easy to post. Make it easy to spread.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, Alex? Oh,
what about you?
Jenny, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, make sure your graphics are pretty.
Yeah. Graphics go a long way.
Like, I've seen Kickstarters with some really ugly graphics, and I'm just like, this is an eyesore. Make sure people can read the things that you're putting out, because if people can't read it, they're not gonna fund it.
Yeah, it just goes back to, and it doesn't help that, anyways, it just goes back to the fact that the bar has been raised a lot, and you are no longer really, crowdfunding isn't a first stages thing anymore. It's definitely, I've done a lot of pre-production work. I have my core loop down, and I have final passing assets, because you're selling the dream of the finished product, and that's why it does it. Like, we're talking about, like, if you don't have a big name, because if you have a big name, you can file in a paper, you can like Peter Molyneux, you can do whatever you want, and then for some reason people will just throw money at you just because of who you are. But if that's not you, you got to front load it. You really got to. I'm going to talk about the good for my bonus round. Honestly, the outpouring of support, especially when you're not ready for it, is, I cried a lot during the Kickstarter for Spirit Swap. Like, when we funded, I cried and I screamed. When we hit stretch goals, I cried and I screamed. A month later, when the money showed up in our account, I cried and I screamed. And yeah, that's game dev. You just cry and you scream a lot. Sometimes it's happy, sometimes it's sad. But I do want to say that when you lock yourself into a crowdfunding campaign, you are no longer just a game developer. You are also taking on the full-time job of crowdfunder. And that's even after you receive the money, because now you have to keep your people engaged, because these are the people who have faith in you. And for however long your dev cycle takes, you have to keep them excited about the game, because they will become the evangelists of your game because they believe in you. You have to manage their expectations. You have to post regular updates. We do it on a monthly basis, but however that works for you. And you have to be ready to be in it for the long haul, because you can't just focus on the game now that you've crowdfunded it. You have to understand that you have added a job on top of being a game dev, and that is being a semi-public person, and that's a lot of work. So that's really something that I feel like we should talk about more. The fact that you're now under scrutiny, and the development cycle is under scrutiny by people who are rooting for you, but who also have expectations of you. So be very aware of what you're taking on, because it's a lot of joy, and it's also very constraining sometimes. Like writing updates, posting screenshots. I know it sounds silly, but like if you've like been working on like something for weeks and it's not working, and all you have to show for it is one screenshot, people are going to be like, what have you been doing this month? And you're like, well, it's not, you want to see my code? Like, I don't, it's not all of game dev is glamorous, but you have to figure out a way to keep it engaging and keep it honest if you decide to go the crowdfunding way and if it works out for you. So yeah, that's my wild round, I think. Yeah, the ugly of my wild round is we needed more funding. Like, I'm gonna be very honest. Yeah, with all the money we freaking made, we still needed more funding, and we're still scrambling to get grants and stuff like that. That's just the reality of it. Especially with first-time teams making something. So be prepared to need more money and start setting up your opportunities and bouncing, using that crowdfunding campaign as a platform to bounce from, as opposed to your end goal. Do either of you, would you like to add to that?
I think you've summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
Conclusions. I feel like I already
Just
did my
plan
conclusion.
ahead. Yeah, just plan ahead, please.
Plan ahead. Always have
Take
a
the
game
time.
plan. Yeah.
Think about it. Research.
Research. And it's okay to base your crowdfunding campaign off other games. That's literally all we do.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, we looked at so many things that were successful when we were planning for Spirit Swap. Yeah, you see a layout you like, just fucking replicate it. It does not matter. As long as you're not stealing assets, just steal ideas. For your crowdfund, don't steal ideas for like other shit. But yeah, capitalism
Anyway,
sucks.
support
We're all
my
trying to
new
make
game, Swap Spirit, with singles in your area. That's my new project. You won't believe it. It's coming out.
I support it.
God, don't.
I
thanks.
support it.
Thank
You're
you.
too kind.
Everyone, this is where you can find us. Son, would you like to tell people to wishlist your game?
Yeah, so Love Shore is releasing this fall in the next few months. So a little bit after this, you'll see a new trailer in this event.
Very exciting.
Very exciting. But
What
yeah,
about
please.
you? Go ahead, please.
So sorry. I'll just finish up real quick. Please follow us on @PerfectGarbo. Someone else took @PerfectGarbage. I'm still haunted by this every day. But follow us on Twitter, and don't forget to wishlist Love Shore on Steam, because those numbers, much like Kickstarter stats, matter. So
Yes.
They do.
And buy to validate. Go buy it right now. It's out on the Switch, PC, Mac, and the Xbox. Go buy it. It's $15. Please go buy Validate. Thank you.
Good. You should absolutely buy it. And for us, Softnut Week, you can follow us at Softnut Week. Check out Spirit Swap, Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2. Wishlist a game if you enjoy it. Play the demo. It's free. I'm Alex. This is Son, and this is Danny. And thank you so much for watching our talk. We hope it helped you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to our lovely panelists for sharing a deep dive of their experiences with crowdfunding. In the meantime, did y'all actually know that Game Devs of Color Expo has their own Etsy shop? It is the same acronym that you see here. Please go check it out. There's merch like shirts, pins, and more. So definitely take a peek if you haven't already.